Welcome. I really hope you'll settle in and enjoy our time together. I'm Matthew Atherton-Baber, and I primarily teach rather fine floristry. However, like William Morris, I believe firmly that the true secret of happiness lies in taking a genuine interest in all the details of daily life. So whether you're a fireman or a secretary or a surgeon, we all have to eat. We all need the company of people around us, and I'm particularly interested in the ways we do that at home and around the table and from our gardens. The thing I want to talk to you about today is peaches. We are in August we're here in Nashville at our cottage. I've also had peaches in Kentucky the last, 3-4 weeks. And so there are all sorts of things to do with them, and I'll talk to you about some of them, but the thing I want to do today is show you the simplest thing you can do that amplifies the natural peach flavor with minimum effort. I'll go through some options of how you might vary it to your situation, but no matter how you proceed, you must start with great peaches. I hate to disparage grocery store peaches, but in the last 20 years, I have never found a peach in a grocery store that was worth eating. I'm very lucky that I come from a place in Kentucky where peaches have been grown, for hundreds of years and cultivated specifically in my immediate area since 1873. And the Reed family of Reed's Orchard has been growing peaches and apples and other fabulous produce there for over 150 years. And they've been so successful at it that it was a substantial part of our story of the area becoming known, our roads developing for transporting their marvelous produce. Anyway, get to know the history of agriculture in your area because it may well tell you a lot about yourself and what you're eating and why you've been eating it for generations. So for us, peaches are wonderful. They've been around my whole life. And when you find a peach, if you're lucky, you have a tree. But far more of us know a farmer, we live near an orchard, maybe we have a farm stand, and you have to engage the peach. You can't just say, oh, look at that basket, put it in my cart. You want to smell them, and you want a strong fruit flavor, and you want to feel them. You want them to be yielding. Do not put your thumb through, or the seller will be most displeased with you. But a strong fruit flavor, and you want them to be softer if you want to eat them sooner. They can be a little firmer if you've got a bit of time. Now, if you buy them a bit firm and there's no fragrance, you may not have a great peach. But what you can do is put them in a paper bag and either roll down the top of the bag and keep them in a bit of a warm place briefly. Check on them. They might start ripening rather quickly. Or you can put your peaches near apples or bananas, and the ethylene gas released by the other fruit will hasten their ripening. So, when you decide to proceed as I'm going to show you, these are a bit ripe. The pressure I'm adding is too subtle for the camera to see, but I could easily push my thumb through if I wanted, but it's not just drooling slop. Now, what you want is to peel the peach. It's fuzzy, and if you're eating a peach out of hand, wash it and eat it. That's great. The texture is part of the experience. Otherwise, you want to take a fresh peach at room temperature. I do not store them in the refrigerator. Cut a small X in the bottom. Prepare a heavy pot of simmering water. And when it comes past the simmer to a rolling boil, put your peaches in, not so many at a time that it stops boiling and takes forever to return. And you want to leave them maybe 30 or 40 seconds at the most. The goal is not to cook your peach. The goal is to remove the skin. So the fuzz will come off in the water, and then with a sharp knife, cut it in half, starting and ending at the tip end. Twist it open, remove the pit, certainly, and then starting here, you want to begin slipping off the skin. See how easily that comes? You need the knife to help you, and be careful. It is very slippery, but It's no trouble at all. And unless you particularly like the experience of eating peach fuzz, this is an essential step. So, now that you're here, if this pocket that contained the pit has any degree of pit or hard surface remaining, it's very easy to remove. And this one has very, very little. So I can literally just do it with the tip of the knife. And then from my hand, carefully, I am cutting it into slices. You can decide if you want big slices, skinny slices, just depends on your purpose. We will talk about that in a moment. So I'll do it for you again. You have a half, start at the stem end, and very gently peel off the skin. It should, like this, come off in large leaves, so to speak. And you should not have to hack around on your beautiful peach flesh. And you will also see that the beautiful blushing color of the skin remains on the fruit. This side, again, has just a tiny residue of the pit. Now, carefully slice. And what I have in this bowl is exactly this, already done. So, we want to sweeten them a little bit. Taste your peaches and see where you're starting. Also, a good grower is going to grow delicious varieties that are really, really wonderful for eating, cooking, and so on, though get to know your grower and ask them, I want to make pie, which peach do you recommend? I want to eat them fresh, which do you recommend? So, I've got here, I don't know, maybe 5 peaches. And instead of sugar, as most people would begin, we're going to go with my typical process, which is similar to my strawberries film. If you have seen it, you'll know what I mean. If not, have a look. I'm going to start with jam in lieu of sugar. It is a concentration of fruit flavor, and this is peach jam. My husband put up peach preserves this year, but he didn't do a whole lot of it. It's not the money-saving enterprise it used to be, but you will get a quality that you cannot buy. But if your homemade preserves are limited, buy a good quality of jam, preserves, whatever you like. And I want to put enough to gently enrobe the fruit without making a sauce. They are going to produce their own juice in time. So plan for that from the start. And with something that's a little hardier, like maybe strawberries or definitely apples, you might mix as you add the ingredients, but peaches can fall apart easily with agitation, particularly if they're quite ripe. So instead of mixing it now, I'm going to put everything in and give it a mix and have a taste. Peaches are amplified by shared flavor compounds. And interestingly, white wine, and I'll tell you specifically what white wine I'm using, and basil, the herb, amplify the natural flavor of peach. Peach is also close to tropical fruits in character, and tropical fruits are amplified with citrus, rum, vanilla, and dairy. So just like if I was doing this with bananas or maybe mango or papaya, with peach, I'm going to pair it, when I serve it, with whipped cream, ice cream, pastry cream, creme anglaise, something like that, that has the dairy and the vanilla in it. So we don't need to add it now. And also with tropicals, honey amplifies their flavor. So we're partially sweetening with jam and partially sweetening with honey. And I should have thought to bring some honey down from our family apiary up in Illinois, which is operated expertly by an uncle of mine. But I didn't think about that, and this is one we happen to have in the back of the pantry down here at the cottage. So, in we go. A dash of rum. You do not want it to taste boozy. If you do want it to taste boozy, That's your choice. I don't want this to taste boozy. I just want the rum to add, you see, I'm dribbling. You just want it to add a bit of depth. And this wine that I'm using is not expensive. I found it at an utterly unpretentious wine shop attached to a grocery store. It is a rather mass-produced wine, and it is a sweet Riesling that I like to use when I'm making desserts. It's inexpensive. I think I paid about $9 for this bottle. And one bottle would certainly last you all summer for peaches. Now, on to the basil I mentioned. Hopefully you have grown your own. It is very, very strong. This leaf is a bit wet, so if I don't use it, it will be wasted. Look at this one small leaf. For this amount of peaches, this is too much. You put it in and you'll say, my word, it tastes like a caprese salad. So I'm going to start with this tiny piece, and I'm going to cut it rather fine. It's so small, it's hard to hold. I'm going to make a chiffonade, a very loose chiffonade in spirit, and then turn it, cut across in the opposite direction. These tiny little pieces will be all distributed and give a wonderful flavor. It is just like if you're making a curry and you might put in kaffir lime leaves. It's the same thing. It adds a vegetal note that really echoes the natural flavor of the peach. And also freshly squeezed lemon juice. I'm always surprised with how much it takes for fruit, but you cannot take it out, so put it in with caution, like everything. Now, gently mix to distribute everything rather homogeneously. It smells wonderful. Peaches are fruit that contain a lot of water, so as you leave this, which once we agree completely on the seasoning, we will leave them to juice and then decide what to do. Let's add lemon. Here's a little piece. It's delicious. Needs more lemon. Quite a bit more lemon. I did add, before I came on camera, while I was preparing them, a tiny bit of acid and a tiny bit of salt. The acid just to prevent them from browning. If you peel peaches and leave them hanging around at room temperature, uncovered, and without any acid, they could oxidize and turn a nasty dark color, which is not appetizing. I wish you could smell them. Okay. Now, I want to mostly taste this wonderful liquid, because that a little more wine, I think a touch more basil, and I brought out here to show you, I'm not going to use this oil, basil oil, today. You could certainly make your own. This is a commercial preparation. I always look for this kind of thing that is rather expensive on sale when the expiration date is not too immediate. And that's a good time to pick it up. Okay, tiny bit more. And I caution you, when you're tasting very analytically, to not become impatient and say, oh, I've tasted 2 or 3 times, and I'm not there yet, glug, 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 I'll add a lot, because you will inevitably go too far. And all of your sensitivity in the beginning will be lost. Now, I can't imagine we'll need any more herbaceous activity than that. They are already juicing substantially. And they smell absolutely heavenly. That's great. It still needs a little bit more lemon, and I'm going to add one last thing. and I'm going to do it with tremendous caution. That is almond extract. If you have had a wonderful apricot preserve in Europe, particularly France, you might have had it with almonds actually made in the mixture. You could probably put a couple of almonds in, and if they're really fresh and fragrant, maybe it would give you a bit of a lift to the peach flavor. But almonds and peach kernels share common compounds. So the danger with any kind of almond extract is it's very powerful. And if you put too much, I mean even more than a few drops, all you will taste is almond. So you see me being ridiculously careful. That's because I want this to taste of peaches, not to taste of almond. But the almond enhances it a little bit. An argument could be made for also adding a bit of cinnamon. If you wanted to do that, you might grate a very, very small amount of really high quality cinnamon right over the top when you serve it, mostly for fragrance. But cinnamon is so powerful that it easily overwhelms something fragrant and rather delicate like peach. So I'm not going to add any. Okay, let's just see. That's delicious. The tartness is wonderful. And keep in mind, if you're going to serve this with a sweetened cream or an anglaise or an ice cream, that is sweet as well. So you don't want to just have sugar on top of sugar. I do want the tiniest additional drop of almond. Again, better to be cautious than to be filled with regret. And then I'm going to put this aside. You could cover it with plastic. You could put a plate on top that fits relatively well. Put it in your refrigerator for a few hours. How fast will it juice? It depends on your fruit. It depends on how warm or cool you're storing it. But what would I do with it then? I would certainly eat it as is, in a beautiful sherbet dish, cool room temperature, not straight from the refrigerator. That kind of cold would dull the flavor. But then I would put on top, as I said, a bit of creme chantilly, a bit of creme anglaise, a scoop of vanilla ice cream, only vanilla. I would not get wild with the ice cream. You want the dairy and vanilla to play up the flavor of the peach, and you don't want any distractions. This is simple perfection. Don't muck it up. Also, once this becomes quite juicy, you could add a little bit of thickening agent, for example, tapioca flour, and use it to make the filling of a cobbler, which is exactly what I've done. So I'm going to clear these things away, and I'm going to bring out the cobbler and show you just how easy and marvelous it is. I'll be right back. I just have to have a little more. It's so delicious. Welcome back. As you see, I have brought this beautiful, still warm cobbler from the kitchen, and I want to tell you everything I did to make it in a quick summary, because I'll put all the details on my blog, imathertonbaber.com, and from the main menu, select blog. I will also put the details for how I prepared the peaches, but I do want to summarize, because I was so eager to get into seasoning them, I forgot to give you a few of the details. Yes, I live in a place that is famous for growing peaches, though not nearly as famous as Georgia. And I'm making this film for you in Nashville, and these fabulous peaches, maybe the most delicious I've ever eaten, I have to confess, came from Georgia by way of the very popular peach truck business that we have near us at the farmer's market. Anyway, select great peaches. And when you peel them, the thing I forgot to tell you, score the bottom. I'll show you again. Score the bottom. See, this one's very ripe. It has a little blemish. Into boiling water, 30 to 40 seconds, and then you must remove them immediately to an ice bath. It's the shocking that helps release the skin. Then you just slice them, of course, remove and discard the pit, and season, as I showed you, very, very sensitively, tasting as you go. Now, to this exact mixture, I added a little bit of tapioca flour, dissolved in some of the released accumulated juices, and a little bit of water, stirred it thoroughly to be sure there are no lumps and it's well distributed, into a standard pâte brisée kind of pastry. And you see, I rolled it very casually with a bit of rustic overhang. I turned it in around the edges, and I put some southern biscuits as the top crust. I'm going to turn it a little forward to show you. I don't want it to slop out of the dish. It's still warm. But I will tell you, my husband and I are very similar. We are not a case of opposites attract. We, in fact, are nearly the same on almost everything. But the great disagreement of our marriage is on the definition of a cobbler. Now, where I'm from, a cobbler is ubiquitous. It is something that is had all seasons of year, depending on what fruit is available. Peach is one of the most classic cobblers, and it is always made in a rather large dish, not just a round 8 or 9 inch pie plate. It is usually oval or rectangular, most often rectangular, like a 9 by 13, and it has a bottom crust, a top crust, and a filling that is a bit looser than pie, because it's always going to be served with whipped cream or almost always vanilla ice cream. And you want the filling to be sort of self-saucing, fruit in sauce with pastry. I have varied it a bit because I want to show you the biscuits in a film I have coming up. Great southern biscuits that are very easy to make. And it makes a wonderful texture cooked with the fruit filling. But my husband argues that what I've just described to you is a slab pie, and that cobblers are other things. He says, well, maybe they've got more like a pancake batter that's poured in, and maybe it's layered, the batter and the fruit are layered differently. Maybe there's no bottom crust at all. Anyway, he has lots of arguments he likes to wage, and I'm sure he's right. But where I'm from, and I think it is probably not just regional, but micro-regional tradition, cobbler is 2 crusts in a rather large dish with a slightly loose fruit filling. And the most classic are peach and blackberry. And I often see it in cherry, though the season is extremely short, and I don't know anyone that particularly grows a lot of cherries near me. And more, as people are eating more seasonally, I see it with apple. Sometimes I see it with plum. But the classic peach cobbler is even a dish my mother is well known for, because she makes it often and quite well. So, I think I've given you the story on peaches. What else might you want to know? Can you make this ahead? Can you make the peaches ahead? The peaches will be juicier and juicier and juicier. If your peaches are particularly slightly underripe, you might mix them with these ingredients late the evening before and refrigerate them until the next day. You could certainly bake a cobbler like this in the morning to serve for a late lunch or all the way through dinner. I wouldn't probably bake it. You might get away with the day before, but this is not really a make-ahead dish. The quality of the pastry in particular will suffer with time, because this is a rather moist environment, and we are in the American South. I don't know where you are, but it's humid here. The weather is humid, and the pastry will not last to be crispy forever. So I hope you love this. I hope you find it helpful and inspirational. I hope you go out in what is left of peach season, wherever you are, and give this a try. Again, even if all you make is this simple mixture that you serve over ice cream or with a bit of whipped cream, or just even pour over some heavy whipping cream, unwhipped. It will be delicious. And with that, I will serve myself a small portion and see what we've achieved. Listen to that crusty pastry. I'll even take part of this biscuit. This could be quite a mess, but it will be a delicious mess. Oh, look at that. Fantastic. And the fruit, because we didn't bash it about, because it wasn't too disintegratingly overripe, has basically stayed whole. It's delicious. I don't know why I didn't bring out some cream. I said, oh no, not necessary, but for the eating is awfully good. Well, good luck with your peaches. Once you've prepared them, tag me on Instagram at @imathertonbaber, and we can celebrate your success together. On that subject, here on YouTube, if you like this sort of thing, please click the like icon and the bell to know when I've got more content coming. Please do subscribe. It helps my business grow tremendously. And leave a comment. I love your comments. And you always say the most insightful things, and you share about your lives, and I love the comments. I look at them and try to reply to every one. I am on Instagram at @imathertonbaber. I'm on Facebook at @imathertonbaber Studio-Workshop. My website is imathertonbaber.com, and there are all sorts of things there that you might like to see. I've got online classes you can take. I've got Learn Live programs. You can meet me and join me in life. And of course, my blog has recipes and a lot more. So I hope you enjoyed. I certainly enjoyed showing you these wonderful peaches. I'll see you soon. It is awfully good.